This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee Franz. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Welcome to the It Was a Thing on TV podcast, episode 6, submission 074, Meow Manor. Meow Manor aired on Up TV from November 8th of 2017 to April 7th of 2018 for a total of 19 episodes. And guess what? Since there's no episodes online and you actually have to pay to see them, you're not getting an opening. We're starting the show right now.
Oh, thank heavens.
So, well, first, Up TV, maybe people don't know what it is. It's a reasonably new channel. I don't want to call it a digital sub-channel, because it might be some places a digital sub-channel, some places it might be a cable channel. It's very, very reminiscent of the religious channels that you see that show 12, 15, 18 hours of reruns a day. They're no different, except they don't really show any sort of religious programming. They show more family-friendly programming in terms of Gilmore Girls, Seventh Heaven. I think they've shown. They have a couple of their own original series. They show Home Improvement.
They have Reba.
They have Reba. They also show a lot of Whose Line Is It Anyway after about 10, 11 o'clock at night. But the big catch is it's highly censored. If you remember what Family Channel did to Whose Line Is It Anyway like 10 to 15 years ago, where they censored out quite a bit because it was too offensive for Pat Robertson, imagine this on an exponential level where, like, I don't want to say everything is bleeped out, but a lot more than usual is bleeped out. So there was a show, and this was actually very popular. It made the news about two and a half years ago. It was from Iceland, who probably besides this is best known for giving us Bjork and Lazy Town, if you've ever seen that on Nickelodeon. It was big in my family about 15 years ago, so I don't know if people remember that. But there was a show that literally, like, almost every TV in Iceland was watching. And we're talking about a country of 360,000 people, so A, there's probably not many television options in a country that small, but also B, there's just not that many people watching in terms of total number, not in terms of proportion or share or percentages. So the Icelandic broadcaster Nutiminn, Nutiminn, they had a reality show which could be best described as Big Brother, but with cats. And the cats aren't evicted. It's just essentially a giant cat video, like a 24/7 stream of watching cats in a 3-sided house with, actually it's like 4-sided, but the fourth wall is plexiglass so you can see in there. And they're just watching cats. I understand that. I mean, it can be very therapeutic because, cats make people relaxed. Cats don't really get into trouble of any sort. They're very pleasing to watch. Everybody loves cat videos. I know Greg loves cat videos.
Yes, I enjoy the occasional cat video here or there.
And we also enjoy the occasional cat meme. And in my case, I have to enjoy 2 cats, which I generally do. So this TV show, and I'm not even joking you about this name, it's not keeping up with the Kardashians. It's keeping up with the Kardashians.
Oh my god.
It's an Icelandic pun. The word Katar, K-A-T-T-A-R, is Icelandic for cat. So basically, it means keeping up with the Kardashians. It isn't Kardashians; it's Kardashians.
No, Mike. Now I understand why Iceland has so much incest.
That's a reference to the Omnibus podcast with John Roderick and Ken Jennings, by the way. They had an episode about that maybe 2 months ago. Very interesting. Yeah, so there's 4 cats, or 4 kittens, I should say, and they're playing in this house. It's a 2-story house, and there's like an attic on top, and there's a bedroom and a living room in the bottom. And the big thing, and this goes actually back to last week's episode about That's My Dog and Think Like a Cat, there is blatant advertising everywhere for what could probably best be described as Chewy, but for Iceland. I don't even remember the name of the website, but I remember going there after seeing this on Meow Manor because, yes, I did see an episode of Meow Manor. I admit it. I'm probably one of like a dozen people who saw this and lived to survive or lived to tell the story about it. But so, yeah, this was like Icelandic PetSmart, which is, I mean, a good advertisement, but, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, there's just like cardboard signs just sitting there with the URL. Whatever the name of the advertiser is, I believe the domain code is IE for Iceland, or IC. IE is Ireland, I believe. So yeah, whatever the website is, .IE or IC. And yeah, and the way they did the show, at least Meow Manor, not necessarily the Icelandic version, but Meow Manor was just translated or had narration done not unlike Meerkat Manor. If you remember, that was actually a very popular show on Animal Planet probably about 15 years ago. Meerkat Manor had Sean Astin doing narration for meerkats living in their natural setting in Africa. Here I'm sorry?
What? Sean Astin doing narration.
So you've never heard of Meerkat Manor?
No, I have not.
Oh, this was, like I said, probably one of the biggest shows that that Animal Planet had like 15 years ago. It was just cameras. I don't know if it was BBC cameras or I think it was BBC. I don't think it was Animal Planet cameras. I don't think they had quite the budget at the time. And what this show was about a family of meerkats, and they were filmed in the Kalahari Desert. And they actually gave the meerkats names. I can't really tell you the names. I never really paid attention to the show. Plus, also, how can you tell the meerkats apart? Maybe by their fur, their stripes, if there's any stripes. I mean, I look at one meerkat, they look like all meerkats. But yeah, Sean Astin, he did series 1 through 3, and then Stockard Channing did series 4.
Because that's a good replacement, Stockard Channing.
Yeah, and it ran from 2005 until 2009. So yeah, it ran for almost 4 years, and it is about, like I said, well, at its earliest, it's just over 10 years old, but realistically, it's close to 15 years old, and it did air in the UK. I think it was a BBC documentary of some sort. So we were talking about Meerkat Manor now. Now we're talking Merely Cats. You see how I transitioned there? Meerkat, now we're talking Merely Cats.
Oh, God.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So, Meow Manor, it followed 4 kittens, and these are Icelandic names. They may have given them American names. I don't remember enough about the show to tell you whether they Americanized the names, but the kittens were called Guoni, Ronja, Breet, and Stuber. Household names for cats. And you thought Banoodles was weird. Guoni, Ronja, Breet, and Stuber.
Oh man, when my firstborn, I'm gonna name him Stupor.
Stuberdiner. I'd love for that to happen. Stuberdiner. So yeah, this show just, like I said, there's nothing out of the unusual. And Greg can vouch for this because he saw this video, or at least may have seen this video. I found actual footage. I think it was about an hour of the stream, or hour and a half of the stream. And I even warned Greg. I said, "Yeah, here's the video of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Spoiler: none of the cats really moved for the first 20 minutes, and none of the cats did move. I mean, maybe you'd see the one licking itself, cleaning itself, but you didn't see any of the cats interacting for 20 minutes into the video. A little bit over 20 minutes. And this was like a really big hit in Iceland. Apparently, as Greg said earlier, they must be very bored in Iceland. But that was actually the first set of cats. For future seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they actually brought on new kittens, and one of the things that actually, something good that came out of this, is that the kittens on the each series, they would be adopted out. So that's a good sign. At least the cats are finding homes. They're not staying in the shelters, and they were shelter cats to begin with.
Yeah.
So they all found homes, and then they bring on another batch of cats. And actually, I'm going to take back what I said about the plexiglass, and Greg will see why in a moment. Okay, look at there's a number of animated GIFs on there.
Okay. Clicking on it now.
The first one is animated. Or there's one animation near the top.
Okay. I'm seeing the one with the N. Is that what it is?
Yes. There's no plexiglass there.
No, there is
what the cat does. The cat jumped on some sort of cat scratcher and then leapt onto the second floor, bypassing the stairs. And there's obviously a set of stairs there.
Yeah, it's like, screw that. I'm going to climb this.
Well, you see, now I've got bigger issues, because if this isn't in like the adoption center or animal control or what have you, if this is on a soundstage and they're just having cats loose on the soundstage, that just, I don't like that. Well, you don't want the cat running off the soundstage, so I'm going to assume that this was done in either a smaller studio or maybe in the protection society or what have you, the no-kill shelter or whatever.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
But yeah, on top of the cats that are that were adopted out from this show, there actually was a huge rise in the adoption rate of cats from shelters in Iceland. So there's a good there. There's a very good.
Yes.
The show was actually, I mentioned, is produced, or what was the highest rated show on Nutimin, which actually is an Icelandic news channel, not even a entertainment channel per se. It's the CNN of Iceland, and they showed cats, which probably tells you how much news they had going on in Iceland at any given day. But yeah, one big takeaway from this was that the show aimed to raise awareness about stray cats and trying to find them homes in Iceland. And there was actually a significant growth in the cat adoption rate in Iceland once the show started. So, I mean, this may have been something a little goofy that was on TV, but it did some good. Because people who at least aren't allergic to cats love cats, and they found these cats loving homes, forever homes, in a country where really, I don't know how long a stray cat could live in Iceland, because it's not exactly 85 degrees in the summertime or the wintertime in Iceland. It's very cold. But yeah, this was a bona fide hit for Nutimin. That sounds like either a bad vitamin or some sort of nutritional supplement. Nutimin.
Yeah.
And
wow, Nuterman.
Oh gosh. No. So Keeping Up with the Kardashians was a big hit for Nutimin, but it lasted only, as I said earlier, 19 episodes on Up TV, and it's not even available for rerun anywhere. There's no episodes on YouTube. There's some footage, some clips, some promos. But if you actually want to see it through the Up TV app or through Amazon Prime, it costs like $10 a month. And with all due respect to Up TV, I can watch two adorable girls fighting here on a daily basis, and it doesn't cost me $10 a month. Oh, and when I say two young fighting girls, I don't mean actual girls. I mean my cats. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Well, Meow Manor, I know this is a short episode. Meow Manor, it was a thing on TV, and it was actually a worldwide phenomenon for a brief while.
Yes.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on two great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content. Offered tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all these great shows, plus archives of our past podcasts from over the past 8 years as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth search projects, and much more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping. And we want to thank our friends at Boneheads, Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com as well. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to the It Was a Thing on TV podcast, episode 7, submission 343. And yes, we really do have that many submissions. Actually, more than that now. Submission 343 is Lidsville. This was a children's program on ABC, which aired from September 11th, 1971, until September of 1972, then was in repeats from 72 to 73, for a total of 17 episodes.
In the middle of a summer, in the middle of a park, there began a great adventure for a boy whose name was Mark. He had come to see the magic man along with all the children, and 'twas so began the day that Mark was never to forget. He performed all sorts of miracles, and Mark was so impressed that when the time arrived to go, he lagged behind the rest. Then quietly he did return the secret of the hat to learn, but everyone had gone away and darkness held its breath. The moment that he touched the hat, the room began to glow, and as he put it down and ran, the hat began to grow and 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 grow. He was stunned and he was fascinated, still he had to see there was something deep inside the hat. What could that something be? Then cautiously each step he took, he climbed upon the brim to look, and all at once the hat began to shake and rock. Look out! Falling, falling into the net he fell, spinning, turning, whirling. to the skies. He couldn't believe his ears or eyes. Lidsville is the kookiest. Lidsville is the kickiest. Lidsville is the grooviest. Lidsville is a living end friend. If you get a chance to go there, you'll be glad you did. 'Cause everybody who goes to Lidsville really flips his lid.
How's that for a topper?
And there you heard the theme of the show, which pretty much outlines many things. It outlines the plot, where young Mark, who's played by Butch Patrick, who was Eddie Munster, he gets a little curious after a magic show being done by a magician named Merlot.
Yes.
Merlot.
Played by Charles Nelson Riley.
Like the wine. Yeah, played by Charles Nelson Riley. He goes backstage, curious as to what the real magic is. And Merlot's top hat suddenly grows in size. It's life size. Big enough for Mark to climb on the brim of the hat, and magically, once he gets on top of the hat starts shaking, and Mark falls into the hat. And no, he just doesn't fall into the hat. He falls into, like, whatever dimension that Ed Begley's TARDIS that runs on vegetable oil goes through. He goes through, like, the 5th dimension or the 8th dimension or whatnot, and ends up landing in a land called Lidsville, which is inhabited, and this is like a bad, like, hallucination or something. Somebody had to have been on, like, tons of marijuana or other recreational drugs back in the late 60s / early 70s. The characters in Lidsville are all pretty much hats. They're people whose heads have been replaced with hats, or are hats, and not even people, because there are other characters than, let's say, human being bodies. We'll get into that in a second. But this is like the ultimate, like, hallucinogenic TV show. And I say that because even, like, there may have been a sense of some reality in other Sid and Marty Krofft shows, like H.R. Puff and stuff, and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Yeah, I mean, they were ridiculous, but I mean, this is like over the top ridiculous. How many mushrooms were you eating at the time? Or how much were you inhaling? It's crazy.
Oh man, this is just something else. This show.
It's trippy. It's psychedelic. I mean, I understand that the late 60s and early 70s were, sort of influenced by that. You had very weird fashions going on, and it's just, this is like over the top. It's surreal.
And not only to mention, getting back to the opening for a second, why is there a magic show at Six Flags?
Well, as I speculated, I think, Six Flags back in the 70s, the early 70s at least, they had roller coasters, but also, like other amusement parks, they had other attractions, stage shows. Magicians is within the realm of possibility, even though I've never seen one at any of the amusement parks I've ever gone to. It's feasible that there was a magic show because there were no video game arcades in the early 70s. They may have had the games where you shoot the clown's nose or the bullseye or whatnot and inflate the balloon or what have you. But you got to remember that technology in the early 70s wasn't the same as it is nowadays, or even 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, if only... Maybe they had some Gottlieb pinball machines at Six Flags back then. Who knows?
They might have. They might have, but obviously the arcade machine was pretty much beginning at that time, and even then there were just a handful of names around, and they were very primitive. So there's actually only 3 real, truly human characters in Lidsville in terms of actors that are being credited on the show who aren't these Lidsville characters. We mentioned Butch Patrick, who is better known for playing Eddie Munster on the Munsters. And then we have Weenie the Genie, who is played by Billy Hayes, who actually is a veteran of Sid and Marty Krofft shows.
She was witchy pooed on HR Puffin stuff.
She did a bunch of voice work. Just taking a look at what she did. She did Tailspin, Johnny Bravo, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Rugrats, and one of our favorites. And this might be an entry. Well, this wouldn't be an entry for a bad show, but this is a show I love and I have on DVD. Duckman.
Oh, yes. Duckman.
Duckman. I think that may have to go in our... then we may need to do some sort of special induction for that, because Duckman was a great show back in the day. And then the third character, as Greg mentioned, was Hoodoo, the evil magician, who was played by Charles Nelson Riley, who also played Merlo the magician, the good magician. So maybe if Charles Nelson Riley is the good magician in the real world, and he's playing the evil magician in this alternate world, maybe it's like reverse, a reverse land?
Maybe it's kind of like on Twin Peaks, like how there's the Black Lodge version of Dale Cooper, and then there's the real world version of Dale Cooper. So I'm trying to wonder, is there like an equivalent of Dougie Jones for Charles Nelson Riley? I don't know.
There's the good Merlo Charles Nelson Riley. There's the evil witchy, or the evil... there's the evil Hoodoo Charles Nelson Riley, and then the third one is the Match Game Charles Riley we get a couple months later. Actually, no, I'm sorry, this would have coincided with Match Game, because Match Game premiered in July of 73, and the reruns ended in September of 73, so there would have been an overlap. Yeah, now this confuses everything. How many worlds is Charles Nelson Riley living in? Ha-ha! So, Hoodoo had his own band of hats, the Bad Hats, and he had 4 of them. One was Mr. Big, who was a gangster type of hat. Oh, and this is going to get very stereotypical. I apologize in advance, but this is the 1970s, not the 2010s or coming on the 2020s. So they got away with a lot more stuff that wouldn't fly nowadays, and I just want to apologize in advance.
Yeah,
so you have your gangster, Fedora, who was the leader of the Bad Hats, and then you have Captain Hooknose, who had a pirate hat, and he literally had a hook for a nose.
Wow, what a shock. A pirate hat, and he has a hook instead of a nose because he's Captain Hooknose.
And he did the usual pirate, yar, yar, the pirate accent or voice, the typical pirate voice. And then there is Bella, which was a vampire hat, and of course it would be Bela Lugosi that's being impersonated, and they even called it Bella. And then the fourth one was named Boris, and it was an impersonation of Peter Lorre, and Boris wore an executioner's hood. Boy, those are 4 bad hats. Wouldn't want to run into the pirate or the gangster or the vampire or the executioner going down the street.
Oh no, you would not want to.
So those are the bad hats, but there's plenty of good hats. And again, the stereotyping is like knee deep, so don't send me emails, don't write letters, we're just the messengers.
Yes, blame Sid and Marty Krofft, they created this.
Exactly. And it is, again, one giant drug trip, acid trip, so yeah, they did some wacky stuff back in the 70s. There was the Imperial Wizard, who was the evil wizard who was Hoodoo's master, So Hoodoo actually had somebody above him. And now we start the stereotyping. There was Ra-Ra, Sis Boom Ba, who is a football helmet. A football helmet. And the football helmet had the stereotypical dumb jock sort of behavior, acting really dopey, doing really dopey stuff. And again, just stereotyping out the wazoo. There was a party hat, which actually had a party favor for a nose. So whenever the party hat talked, Madam Ring-a-Ding, the party favor went out. You know how if you blow a party favor, that little curl of paper extends out? That's what the nose was.
You have to remember, Mike, this is 2019. A lot of our audience wouldn't know what that is.
There's still party favors. What are you talking about? I mean, it's not like, people don't have birthday parties or have party favors anymore, especially given, as of today, in a month and a half, we're going to have New Year's.
Hey, so, Mike, everyone does that crap on Messenger or Facebook or whatever now.
There was also Mother Wheels, an elderly gray-haired motorcycle helmet. Oh, that's what that was. I was watching an episode earlier today, and there was this old woman. I didn't know what her deal was. I thought it was like the Hatsville version of Nidra Voles. And it's a gray-haired motorcycle helmet. Okay, that doesn't make a lick of sense, but whatever. There was Nursey, who was a nurse wearing a nurse hat with a little red cross on it. There was a beanie hat called Twirly, and it is the youngest person living in Lidsville. Spoke with a little baby voice, and he could use his propeller to fly.
Oh, how cute!
Even though I didn't see that in the episodes I saw.
Then we have Colonel Poom.
Yeah, Colonel Poom, and again, this is another stereotype. He was like the stereotypical, Stanley and Livingston explorer. Wore a pith hat or pith helmet, and had like that British voice, that British accent. Good day, sir. Yeah, something like that. And actually, he was a hunter/explorer. Again, hunter can't really use that nowadays. We don't go hunting for animals. That's not good. But again, 1971, they could kill all the elephants they want.
Yeah, you could get all the trophy animals you want back in 1971.
And, okay, here's where the quasi-racism comes in.
Oh, no.
Yeah, buckle up. Mr. Chow.
Oh, Jesus.
And he wore a chef's hat and had a long mustache. And he had a very stereotypical Chinese accent.
What a shock.
Yeah, and there's more than that. I mean, that was your stereotypical Chinese character. And then next was the stereotypical French character, Pierre Le Sueur. And actually, he lived in a sewer. But his character never really came out of the ground. His head would pop up out of this sewer grate, this sewer hole, and he'd say his line, and then boom goes his down goes his beret, sort of like a manhole cover.
Wow, and also it says it was never explained in the series why he can't leave the sewers. So that was probably one of the unanswered questions from Lidsville. Why does Pierre Le Sueur not leave the sewers?
And then we have Scorchy, and Scorchy was actually not really a human. Scorchy was a fire hydrant, a walking, talking fire hydrant, and it had a fire hose for a nose. But the big thing is that Scorchy did was anytime Hoodoo was coming by to cause mischief, Hoodoo would run around all crazy, warning, 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 or didn't say warning, but Scorchy was the lookout for the gang of bad characters coming to Lidsville to cause mayhem. And then another stereotypical voice, Tex. And what do you think Tex was?
A cowboy hat?
Tex when I talk Texas, the hat that comes to mind is a cowboy hat. And let's make it even more stereotypical. Who's probably the most famous actor to wear a cowboy hat?
Well, Pilgrim, it's probably John Wayne.
It is John Wayne, and he had that little drawl that John Wayne had. I mean, the stereotyping is just ridiculous on this thing.
I had one observation about Tex.
Okay.
Tex, to me, looked like... Do you never in Spaceballs, the Comb the Desert scene?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, do you remember that Darth Vader had the Darth Vader analogy, which would be Rick Moranis' Dark Helmet character, was wearing a hat that kind of sort of resembled Tex to cover his face.
Are you saying that Spaceballs stole that from Lidsville?
Well, I'm not saying that Mel Brooks stole anything from Lidsville, but it's very suspicious to me.
After Tex, we have Tonsillini. Tonsillini, that's a real attractive name. Look at the first part of that name, Tonsil. It was an opera singing hat. And every bit of dialogue that Tonsillini had was sing in an operatic manner.
Wow.
Then you had Hiram, who was a farmer's straw hat. And there was a talking piglet, which I didn't see, so obviously I didn't go through enough episodes. There's a talking piglet named Little Ben that was carried by Hiram. Interesting. So obviously this piglet is another, non-hat member of Lidsville. So now Lidsville has these, not necessarily three human characters, because really, Hoodoo was a magician, so an evil magician, so that would be human, I would guess, but he had green skin. And then Billy Hayes played the genie, and I don't think a genie would really be considered a human. So now that brings up a bigger question. How did a pig end up in Lidsville?
Maybe the pig fell into Magic Hat. Who knows? I mean, it does say that it was, I don't know. I mean,
maybe the pig escaped from the animal farm on Six Flags Over Texas, went into the hat. There you go. I think we solved a mystery.
Yes.
And then there was Admiral Scuttlebutt.
What?
Admiral Scuttlebutt, yes.
That's a terrible name. Admiral Scuttlebutt.
Scuttlebutt, yes, Admiral Scuttlebutt. And he was a green admiral hat and only talked in naval cliches. And then here goes more racism. This is the last character, by the way, but buckle down. This is like, if you thought Mr. Chow was offensive, Big Chief Sitting Duck.
What?
It was an Indian headdress, and his body was covered by a thick Indian blanket, and he spoke with that, stereotypical Indian accent or Native American accent. How? What are you doing, white man? Something like that.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, like I said, more blatant racism. If they knew then what we know now, that's, just really absolutely bizarre. And again, that was the 70s, a little more innocent time, but not something that would be very politically correct nowadays. So the main thing that happened in Lidsville, Hoodoo the magician was always trying to take over Lidsville by just causing mischief in the life of its residents. There was a time he had a brainwashing machine and encouraged them to go in the brainwashing machine Pied Piper of Hamelin style, playing a little flute, and they're prancing down the main corridor in Lidsville or whatnot into the machine where he set everybody to be like obedient or subservient, to be his and this is not my word, I believe this is actually used on the show, his slaves.
Oh.
Well, I'm just, I mean, like I said, I'm just the messenger here, and I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, the phrase "you are now my slaves" was used, or some variant thereof. The word slaves was used. So again, not cool for 2019. 1971, it really isn't a big deal back then. So again, we're just the messengers. Don't shoot us. It was a different time. But also, Hoodoo did other things against the Lidsville residents. There was one episode which actually I saw that the Lidsville characters were trying to hold a charity event for the old hat home for the aged and elderly. And Hoodoo came by and stole their money. And then to make matters worse, he didn't just steal their funds that they raised. He also aged them all to be old. So everybody had old gray hair, beards on the men, old granny glasses on the ladies. And again, this is like absurd. It's beyond absurd. And then in the end, Mark, the main character, and the genie, they went to Hoodoo's hideout, which was a giant top hat. It was a giant magician's hat.
So wait a minute. Is it Hatception? There's a show inside of a hat, and the main villain lives inside another hat?
Yeah, he lives in like a top hat / magician's hat, yes. Size 13 7/8, in case you're wondering. And it actually does say that on the show. If you actually look, his address is 13 7/8, and inside the hat, when they're showing inside his quarters, there's a sign on the wall that says size 13 7/8. So they tried making it look like a real hat, at least in that way. So yeah, they went to his hideout, and they used a giant body-length mirror. He was going to transform them back into... He normalized them because he felt wrong for cheating them or something like that. But then at the end, he was going to change them back into elderly people, and they held out a mirror. And how does this work? You'd think if he held out the mirror, his little rays would bounce back at him and turn him into an old man? No, instead, they turn him into a little baby.
What? We get baby Charles Nelson Riley?
Well, it's not baby Charles Nelson Riley more than it is miniaturizing Charles Nelson Riley through the use of special effects.
Okay, so it's not quite... And by the way, spoiler in case you haven't watched through episode 2 of The Mandalorian on Disney+, it's not quite Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda's adorable.
Yeah,
I want a Baby Yoda of my own right now.
Who wouldn't want a Baby Yoda?
Hey, Banoodles, do you want a Baby Yoda? She'd like that. She'd think it's like a giant play toy and just like slap it around. So yeah, some of the other adventures they got into. Episode 1, World in a Hat. This is basically setting up everything. After falling into the magician's hat and discovering a magical world, Mark is mistaken for a spy by the tyrannical Hoodoo and his cohorts, including Weenie the good-natured genie. Weenie the genie. How cute is that?
Oh, yes. Then we go to episode 2, Show Me the Way to Go Home. Colonel Poom navigates Mark and Weenie the Genie through the Hair Forest, the Shampoo River, and other exotic locales on their way to find the Golden Ladder. Hoodoo and associates scramble to stop them and ultimately unleash Big Daddy Hoodoo.
Okay, that must be where they do the special effects. Instead of turning him into a small baby Charles Nelson Riley, they then turn it into Attack of the 50-Foot Charles Nelson Riley, taking a line from last week. Not Attack of the 50-Foot Dog, Attack of the 50-Foot Charles Nelson Riley.
Whoa.
That's a super match. Oh, jeez. Did I really say that?
Hey, Mike, at least you didn't take forever to make that joke, unlike Tom Poston.
Hey, another future episode. We'll talk about that later. Episode 3: Fly now, vacuum later. When Mark attempts to get away by magic carpet, Hoodoo summons a giant vacuum cleaner to swallow the boy, leaving it to Weenie to mount a rescue. I can't even say it with a straight face.
How would it be possible to suck up Mark in a giant vacuum cleaner?
Well, now just hold on a second. We need to remember that Lidsville is in this land created by this life-size, this 5 foot in diameter magic hat. So would it be a normal vacuum cleaner and somehow Mark got miniaturized when he fell down the hat? Or is it like a portal into another dimension? I mean, again, there's unanswered questions here, all because, Sid and Marty Krofft had too many edibles. There's got to be something that explains, is it like the world miniaturized or a smaller size, or was it a portal to a world of regular sized creatures? But I think you had a bigger question. How did they get a big vacuum cleaner down there? Did they just go to the big Best Buy store and go get one? And then what type of vacuum cleaner? But then what type of vacuum cleaner is it? Is it a regular upright vacuum cleaner, or is it one of those with the hose that you would have seen back in the 60s and 70s with that giant cylindrical tank?
Well, it wouldn't be the big Best Buy store, Mike. It would probably be, in 1971, the big Montgomery Ward store or something.
Oh, it would have been the big Woolworth. You're right about that. Yeah, Best Buy came a little bit later. Now we're totally like transforming it. We're going from 1971 now to the early 90s. Somehow we're like mixing worlds up here. Episode 4 was Weenie, Where's Our Genie? That title, I'm sorry. Weenie, Where's Our Genie? There's jokes there that you can probably listen to on, it was the thing on TV after dark. When Weenie runs away, Hoodoo kidnaps Nursey and Scorchy and holds them for a ransom until the genie is returned. Boy, that sounds fun. Let's hear it for Wizzo, episode 5. Hoodoo evicts the residents of Lidsville, so Mark disguises him as a rival wizard and challenges Hoodoo to a duel.
Oh, my goodness. It's the Alexander Hamilton Aaron Burr duel in Lidsville.
And nobody dies amazingly because there's still more episodes.
That's amazing.
That's the fabulous world of Sid and Marty Krofft. Is there a mayor in the house? Mark suggests the citizens elect a mayor, so Hoodoo goes out of his way to rig the election.
Oh,
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Oh, gee, that's not timely. Where's the president of
I'm not saying a word. I'm taking the high ground.
Did Hoodoo contact the whatever the Lidsville equivalent of the president of Ukraine is?
Yes, because they found out that Mark's son was working in an oil rig there. Episode 7, Take Me to Your Rabbit. Raunchy Rabbit, who's the rabbit sidekick of Hoodoo. Raunchy Rabbit takes control of Hoodoo's magical powers after they're struck by lightning. Wasn't that the basis for an episode of Automan or Manimal or something?
Is there a Lidsville equivalent of Zippers?
No, I'm not going there either. You're not dragging me into this conversation. Take your hat off. No.
Episode 8, this is the one I saw. Have I Got a Girl for Hoodoo? Hoodoo uses a Lonely Hearts Club to land a date with Wilmina W. Witchypoo from HR Puppet Stuff, so Mark summons his feminine wiles and tries to break them up. So yes, so we have Witchypoo, who's also played by Billy Hayes, who plays the genie on Lidsville. She ends up with Hoodoo, and so Mark breaks them up. He dresses in drag, and then somehow at the end of the episode, Witchypoo ends up with HR Puffin Stuff. That's right, they got HR Puffin stuff to make a cameo in this episode.
Episode 9, Mark and the Beanstalk. This one I actually need to look at because this looks like it's very, very weird. When a magic beanstalk sprouts in Lidsville, Hoodoo disguises himself as Mark and attempts to escape to the real world.
Oh my god, like I said, this is another parallel with Twin Peaks. How you have the Black Lodge version of Cooper and the real Cooper. How the Black Lodge version of Cooper escaped the Black Lodge and went to our reality for 25 years. What would have happened if Hoodoo made it out into the real world? What would have happened to the other magician, Merlot? What would have happened if Hoodoo had actually escaped and made it to the real world? Would he have put Merlot in the hat?
You're thinking on way too deep a level for this time of night. Like I said, I'll have to look at that one because that sounds very interesting. Episode 10, Turn in Your Turban, You're Through. Hoodoo gives Mark Weenie's magic powers and uses the boy as his personal servant. Trippy. 11, Alias the Imperial Wizard. Hoodoo crashes Weenie's birthday party and kidnaps several good hat people to plan a party for the Imperial Wizard.
Who we discussed before, who is Hoodoo's master.
Right. A little Hoodoo goes a long way. The Bad Hats plot to overthrow Hoodoo. Meanwhile, Weenie comes down with the Alibaba virus.
No!
Yeah. The Alibaba virus. I'm not... Okay, that's another one I'm going to have to look up. Oh my gosh. I'm going to spend my weekend watching this very whacked out show. Oh, brother. Hoodoo's good-natured twin brother, Bruce. How the hell does Hoodoo have a twin brother named Bruce? It should have been like Voodoo. Hoodoo and Voodoo. No, here's my twin brother, Bruce.
Hold up. I'm going to look this up.
Hoodoo's good-natured twin brother, Bruce, arrives while he's away and causes great confusion in Lidsville. Please say this is on YouTube.
It is on YouTube.
Oh, gosh. Oh, I picked the wrong episodes to watch. Hoodoo Who is episode 14. The Bad Hats run amok when Hoodoo comes down with amnesia. Hoodoo comes down with amnesia. You get the idea the plot lines were running really thin after about episode 11 or so. And then episode 15, I mentioned this earlier. The Old Hat Home. Hoodoo crashes the Good Hat People's charity event and turns them all into senior citizens. And ultimately, he turns them back into regular creatures. And they sort of turn against him, or at the end, they have this giant full-length mirror, and when Hoodoo tries zapping them, he zaps himself and turns into a little baby, and it's like I said, it's just trippy.
Okay, I found the episode. So apparently the difference between Hoodoo's twin brother Bruce looks exactly like Hoodoo, except the only difference is he's wearing all white to signify his good nature, and he's got a white top hat on.
Is his skin white or is his skin green?
Oh, his skin's green.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So I guess he's his identical twin brother then.
So wait, if he's wearing all white and Hoodoo usually wears all black, where's the confusion? Or if you're somebody in Lidsville, are you going to say, "Hey Hoodoo, why are you not wearing your black outfit you've worn for the other 18 episodes?" It's in the shop. Maybe I'm guessing they're trying to make these kid show characters as naive as maybe little kids would have been watching this, because maybe the kids wouldn't have noticed it. Yeah, maybe some of the perceptive ones. Oh, Hoodoo's wearing a white suit, not a black suit. I don't get it.
Episode 16.
And this is the other one I watched, yes.
The Great Brain Robbery. Hoodoo plays the Pied Piper and lures the good hat people into his brainwash machine to create an army to conquer the Imperial Wizard.
Which never actually gets done because Mark interferes. He gets a hold of this magic flute that Hoodoo played. It was in Hoodoo's lair, and Hoodoo's lair, I'm going to get into that after we get through the last episode. Oh, there's only 17 episodes, not 19, so my bad math there. He goes into Hoodoo's lair, gets the magic flute, goes back to Lidsville, starts playing the music, and the Lidsville residents were all, again, like I said earlier, subservient, let's say. Let's not use the other S word. We'll use subservient, obedient, and they were following Hoodoo's orders, but when Hoodoo wasn't there, they were subservient and obedient to whomever was there that wasn't one of them. And Mark was that person, because Hoodoo was gone, so he went there, played the magic flute, they all did their little dance back into the brainwashing machine, but now the brainwashing machine had like 12 different settings, so yeah, you could make them angry or happy or maybe normal, and I mean, there were some good ones and some bad ones, but so the machine was turned on to happy or good or whatnot, and everybody came out as kind. I think that's what it was kind. And so they're out as normal, but also at the same time, Hoodoo and the Raunchy Rabbit and the deck of cards, who we haven't even talked about, the Jack of Clubs, which is a walking deck of playing cards, who's like a henchman for Hoodoo. And it's thick like a deck of cards, but it has a Jack of Clubs as the card, the face that's facing out. And both the mouths on the Jack of Clubs can move, which is kind of creepy. But so all three of those characters, the Jack of Clubs, the Raunchy Rabbit, and Hoodoo, go into the machine under the kind setting, and they come out and say, "Oh, you're such a kind person, Hoodoo. You're such a kind person, Raunchy Rabbit. Oh, I think you're all so kind." And they like have a group hug, and yeah, and everybody in Lidsville's laughing at him because now they're not evil, they're nice, and it's the more I think about this, the greater chance I'm going to have an aneurysm. I'm sorry.
But the Jack and Clubs, where was Jim Perry when you needed him?
He was still in Canada, I think. He was doing Headline Hunters, I think, or whatever that was. The last one. Oh, and the last one isn't even a real episode. It's called Mommy Hoodoo. In this clip episode, Hoodoo's mother comes to Lidsville while her son is away, and all the inhabitants try to convince her that Hoodoo is still as bad as he ever was.
You know what I'd ask her? Why did you name one son Hoodoo, and you named your other son Bruce?
That's a really good question. Again, it should be Hoodoo and Voodoo, or maybe Bruce and George. But George isn't really a great name for somebody, some evil magician. Oh, look, there's George in the sky. No, there's Hoodoo in the sky. There's a big difference there. So, yeah, I mentioned earlier about Hoodoo's lair, which is a giant top hat / magician's hat. And there were so many bizarre things in that lair which were essentially living. I mean, they were walking around or moving their mouth. There was a skull that moved its mouth, made had a voice, made jokes and stuff like that. There was a sawed body. If you know, like the old magic trick where you saw somebody in half, the bottom half was actually living and would run around. The bottom half.
Oh my god!
So you just saw this box, which looked like a giant die. It looked like a die with no face on it, no pips, and it would just run around. That was a little creepy. for a number of reasons. I mean, number one, how tall was the person that fit that? Because, I mean, this box wasn't that big, and it couldn't have been, it wasn't CGI, obviously. It couldn't have been computer graphics. It was somebody running around. But, I mean, this box couldn't have been more than probably about 18 inches tall, maybe 2 feet tall. It was just, like I said, weird. And then there was some sort of serpent head on the wall, or maybe it's a dragon, but it didn't really breathe out fire, and that spoke. And that actually, that dragon's head was where that magic flute was hiding in the episode we mentioned earlier, the Great Brain Robbery. Mark actually reached into the mouth of the dragon head, or whatever it is, while the dragon head was sleeping, and the flute was in his mouth. Which brings up another question. How did this dragon, or this creature, not choke to death with this 1.5 or 2 foot long flute in its mouth?
Beats me.
The deep questions that are coming from all of this.
Yeah, that's enough deep questions I want to have about this show.
This is about as deep as I want to get in this show. It's just, all I'm going to just add to this is, how did this come about? How did this come to my mind? I didn't search this out, but I remember probably about 25 years ago at this point, either VH1 or Nick at Night had either a night devoted to Sid and Marty Krofft shows, or maybe it was a weekend. I think it was just a night, like either a Friday night or a Saturday night. And they showed H.R. Pufnstuf and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, and I think there were a couple of other shows they showed, but I remember they showed Lidsville. Even back then, 25 years ago, I thought this was really absurd and trippy. My sister, who would have been probably about 14 or 15 at the time, she was totally into all this. This is the coolest stuff ever. And they were only showing it one night. I remember that actually, whichever station was doing this, they offered or had for sale an H.R. Pufnstuf t-shirt, which my sister actually bought. She was that much of a fan of these hallucinogenic TV shows. But yeah, and we're going to do more on Sid and Marty Krofft in the future, because we have, I think at the very least, 3 possible entries.
Yeah, Sid Marty Krofft related.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of at least, I think 2. There's got to be 2, maybe even 3. And actually, the one that immediately came to mind isn't H.R. Pufnstuf or Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. It's actually a variety show. Won't say which one, but if you know about Sid and Marty Krofft and the Krofft Puppets, you know what variety show that they were associated with back about 38 years ago.
Yes. And believe it or not, it's mostly not about puppets.
The puppets were secondary. It was sort of like Hee Haw, but without Roy Clark.
Yeah.
And Junior Samples.
And Victoria Holman.
And Victoria Hall, there you go. You had to throw the Victoria Hallman reference. You see her once on Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, and now anytime you hear Hee Haw and Victoria Hallman.
Oh yeah, Victoria Hallman. She hauled her way into my heart. Let me tell you.
Victoria Hallman hauled her way into your heart?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That was Lidsville, and yes, that was a thing on TV.
Well, what do you know, Place to Be Nation Pop Feed listeners? It's the manager, Todd Weber, here to tell you all about the new shows on our feed. First off, we get the Heart Traveling Fanboys continuing Arrow Month with a look at the first collection of tie-in comic Arrow, Season 2.5. Lots of felicity, lots of good comics. This week in the NFL, every week, talk about the upcoming divisional games, and boy, hey, 49ers going to the Super Bowl makes me happy. Every week we've got the Brother Sister Rewatch podcast, easy for me to say. We talk about episodes 13 and 14 of Season 4 of The Office. Lots of good stuff. It's a great show. Every week also have Diamond Conversations, senior content producer for the radio.com sports. John Healy gives his take on baseball's most recent cheating scandal, the Astros. Damn those Astros. They are dirty, filthy cheaters. On the newest weekly show, this one, It Was a Thing on TV. Hosts Mike and Greg brought you a triple header with Automan and Manimal, that is. Jennifer slept here, and That's My Dog, Think Like a Cat. Also had the latest episode of the Sunday Groove, discussing awesome debut albums with guest Greg Phillips from the Hard Traveling Fanboys. Had a Place to Be Nation Pop special, the Skywalker Saga, A Proper Farewell. Scotty Criscolo, joined by many guests to discuss the end of the Star Walker Saga. Jeez, Todd. Anywho, check that show out. Epic. We also had Marvel Age Podcast, Sarcastic 4. Good God. Brought you part 3 and wrapped up year 1973, right around the corner. Andy Atherton has so many great shows, and the latest one was a laugh-in theater where they watched Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy with guest Matt Souza. Police Be Nation Wrestling Feed is a great wrestling feed of podcasts, including a dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE through yesteryear and beyond. There's Place Be Nation Podcast, there's Main Event, Wrestling Warzone, Extreme, Three-Way Dance, Jenny and the Gems, Talking WCW, so many great things, Body Pressure Luck, and more. Subscribe to Place Be Nation Wrestling. We've also got the greatest sitcom of all time tournament. Check it out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm picking Cheers. Cheers is my favorite show. I think that it will win. We also have our 2020 stretch project, the greatest WCW match ever. What is it? Well, of course, it's Halloween Havoc 97, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. But don't nominate. Suggest matches to watch, and check it out at www.facebook.com/GWCW matches or on Pro Wrestling Only, their message board. Check out our website, placetobenation.com, each and every day. Lots of great content, written articles, and podcast links. Every Wednesday, Glenn Butler's weekly walk around the web. All kinds of great stuff there. Every day, something new. If you're shopping, click on the banner link on that site. Go to Amazon. From there, we get a cut. Help subsidize our shows because these aren't free. They aren't free for us, but they're free for you. Yeah. Anyway, that helps the show out a lot. Anyway, back to It Was a Thing on TV.
Welcome to the It Was a Thing on TV podcast, episode 8, submission 115. Judge Wapner's Animal Court. It aired on Animal Planet from 1998 to 2000. Don't have the exact dates, so we just know it's around a 2-year span.
That's completely unreasonable.
If you want to fight, I can get you boxing gloves, but we're not here for that. My first case ever with worms.
Come here, Sophie! Get him, Rusty!
Can I say something?
No. If she hadn't had an oral agreement, how do you do?
If you guys, and I'm here with Greg and Chico again this week, if you guys remember back about 21 years ago, there was a revival of sorts to start in the judicial genre. Judge Judy had been around for about 4 years at that point, and the People's Court had just returned in 1998, and Divorce Court returned in 1999, and then you started seeing other people get judge shows, like Judge Mills Lane, who was the referee in the Tyson Holyfield fight where where Mike Tyson chewed off part of Holyfield's ear. Oh,
He was hungry.
by the way, possible future installment. So Animal Planet got in on the act. And they went to the original source. They went right to Judge Joseph Wapner. And it's kind of coincidental. About 9 days before this episode was taped would have been his 100th birthday. Kind of coincidental since we actually mapped this out like well over a month ago. So this series, as you might believe, was about court cases involving animals. Now, if you ever watch some of the judicial shows, not divorce court, not paternity court for obvious reasons, but if you watch Judge Judy, if you watch People's Court sometimes, they have animals on there because dogs get attacked by dogs, or a dog attacks a cat, or there's some sort of breeding issue with a horse. Get out of your system, Greg.
I'll do it.
Us.
Sorry, but I had to mute my microphone for a second.
That's fine.
He was busy channeling his inner Mike Francesa is what it was.
That's fine.
I don't have any Diet Coke, Chico, so...
Well, whose fault is that? So, all the cases on Wapner's Animal Court involved, shocker, animals.
No! Are you kidding me?
And then to take it a step further, the animals were actually in the courtroom. There is actually a promotional video on YouTube, like a 2-minute video with outtakes and a preview of the series. And there are birds there, there's dogs there, cats. They even had
term you're looking for is sizzle reel, Mike.
I'm sorry, Mr. Professional. Boy, you get in the biz, you throw all these terms around. And there was actually a horse in the studio. I'll get to my thoughts about that in a second because I'm talking about the rest of the cast. Let's just go right there.
Okay, let's rip the Band-Aid off of this.
We had like a 2/3 reunion of the People's Court. Obviously, Judge Joseph Wapner and his bailiff Rusty came back. Yay!
Nice.
But there was somebody missing. Greg?
Oh yeah. Here's my I'm gonna have a bone to pick with the people of this show. How can you have Judge Wapner and Rusty the Bailiff and not have Doug Llewellyn on this show?
Yeah. I mean, maybe
sense.
Maybe it's just not in the budget, but still. I mean, if you have those two, you've got to have the third part. You got to have the whole trifecta there. Bring the whole band back.
Yeah, you got to have Doug Llewellyn outside the courtroom interviewing these people as soon as the case is over.
And it's not like he was doing the People's Court back in 1998. I don't know what he was doing in 1998.
I don't know either. And he just came back to the People's Court.
He just came back like a year or two ago.
Collecting residuals, probably. I don't know.
I don't think it was rerunning on USA at the time, but...
Yeah, because I think USA Live was already over by 2000.
Yeah, I think it was gone by about 96 or so. The one thing that I was missing from the synopsis of this, the cast, what happens if a horse does what a horse does? I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, it's what happens when a horse does what a horse does, and that is meeting Mike Francesa.
I think he was referring...
Or defecating.
Yeah, I was just about to say, horse walks in... Let's just say, horse walks into a bar and does what a horse does.
Uh-huh. And I'm just genuinely curious. I mean, there's got to be some sort of blooper reel out there. I'm sure some animal relieved itself at some point. We've seen enough Carson. We've seen enough Letterman.
There was that one episode of Bar Rescue.
Oh, Chico! No!
No, it's true. There was a horse walking into a bar and
Chico! No, I know what you're talking about, but no! Actually, I thought you were going to talk about the one with the raccoon feces.
Oh, no! Mike! Mike!
You see where my mind went? It didn't necessarily go into a wrong area.
I'd make a joke here, but that would spoil a future episode, so I'm not going to.
But yeah, and the thing is, they didn't just have dogs and cats. They had guinea pigs. They had geese. I mean, it's like if it was a wild animal or even a tame animal like a pet, it was in Judge Wapner's animal court. And even one time, and I saw this in the sizzle reel. Do you like how I use that, Chico? Sizzle reel. I did that just for you.
I appreciate it, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. There was a duck or a goose. Looked like it may have been more of a goose because of the neck. And it was honking all the time. And Judge Wapner was very close to throwing it out of court. You know Judge Judy would have thrown that goose out after the second outburst. I don't want to hear your stuff. Get out of the courtroom.
So many jokes.
And I'm just looking at this sizzle reel again. There was a pig there. Okay, pigs crap all the time. They live in their crap. I'm sorry if this pushes us to semi-explicit, but really, ew. I mean, there had to be, and I'm sure they had some sort of disclaimer the animals were not injured in the filming of this, not that the animals would be fighting in a courtroom, but, you know, just to placate the PETA people and stuff like that. But, I mean, I didn't find anywhere that they had, like, a dung wrangler.
I'm sure they kept off camera. After all, who would put crap on television?
No, I got it. Greg, I have it. I hope you're listening.
Oh, God, what is it?
Doug Llewellyn was the crap wrangler.
Oh, that's low. That is low.
How the mighty have fallen.
Oh.
I don't know what to say about that.
You know, it would have been amazing if you know, because this is around like 1999, 2000. If, let's say, somehow Judge Wapner was sick or something, you know who they could have gotten to replace him on the court?
Who's that?
Steve Irwin.
Crikey!
Jinx, buy me a coat. No, I'm kidding.
Well, he would have been in Australia at the time. He wasn't really doing a show here at that time, was he?
No, he was in the Australia Zoo still.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So
yeah, but he was like a pop culture phenomenon at this point.
Yeah, that's one heck of a commute, though, from Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide or wherever he's from.
Yeah, one heck of a commute, but not impossible.
The way they ended each case was very similar to like Judge Judy, or if you've seen Judge Jerry nowadays. They have, like, on two separate sides of the outside of the courtroom, have the plaintiff and the defendant, and they just basically give their side of the case. Oh, I thought that Judge Wapner was fair. I thought Judge Wapner was wrong about this. I didn't get to show this evidence. They did that. They didn't do like what Doug Llewellyn does. Okay, here's the defendant. I'm sorry you lost. You know, how do you feel? And then, okay, go sign some papers. Let's bring out the plaintiff and get his or her reaction.
There was such a missed opportunity to do that. I mean, that was just begging for that sort of reaction, you know?
You know what they should have had after every episode? They should have gotten Paul Varenza to do a reaction in the crowd and just ask fair or unfair.
Again, spoiling a future entry into the Pantheon.
But wait, I don't think there was an audience. Well, there may have been people in the court. There
were people in the court.
Well, I'm looking at the sizzle reel right now.
Oh.
It looks like there might be some people. Oh my gosh, there were worms in court? Worms were sued?
All right, now I'm curious. What would you do with a worm in court?
Okay, we're really stretching the definition of animals.
Oh, hold up a second. There's a case I found on the YouTube. A guy with a snake on his head.
Yeah, that's on the sizzle reel. The guy has a Burmese python around his neck.
And now Judge Wapner is sniffing something.
Maybe he's
you know what I just thought of? There's an episode of Family Matters involving a Peruvian stick bug. And it sort of reminds me about all of this.
Did the Peruvian stick bug end up in Judge Wapner's court?
No, but but theoretically could have. Although it was just a regular run-of-the-mill, does this remind you of anything sort of court show?
Okay, yeah, there are people in the gallery, but I'm not even joking. I mean, if you've ever seen Judge Judy or Judge Jerry or any of the other courtroom shows, there might be 50 people in the gallery, maybe 100. Looking at this, there couldn't have been more than looks like a dozen. I mean, it looks like one or maybe two rows of people. They were all going to see Judge Judy and the People's Court Revival at the time. They didn't feel pity for Judge Wapner. Aww.
Sad. Very sad.
Plus also, now I don't know Animal Planet that much. I didn't get Animal Planet back in the early days. This probably was the first foray for Animal Planet into something besides animal documentary shows. True?
Well, there was one show, and I think it came a little bit later, or it was around this time, and possible future entry. In fact, let me go ahead and log it in right now.
Oh, no. More show prep.
Oh, Jesus.
You lie like a dog.
I remember that. I remember seeing it, but I've heard of it.
I vaguely know about this.
Wasn't that like to tell the truth with animals?
It was exactly to tell the truth with animals. And it had a young, naive J.D. Roberto before Battle of the Ages came calling.
We just totally glossed over Shop Till You Drop.
Oh yeah, that should be an entry. The Shop Till You Drop with J.D. Roberto.
Shop Till You Drop the final season. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the Animal Planet was basically trying to, at this point in the game, try to get out of its whole acquired documentaries from Discovery phase.
And it didn't necessarily work. Well, it didn't work in these cases we're talking about, You Lie Like a Dog and Judge Wapner's Animal Planet. But if you look at what they've done since, I would say over the last 10 to 15 years, by far it's been more successful. We mentioned last week Meerkat Manor, which ran for, I believe, a good 3 to 4 years and was actually pretty popular at one point. They also have many, I mean, just look at what's on the channel now. Tanked, about the two brothers who own the aquarium business and make these really fancy aquariums for celebrities. And they've got My Cat from Hell, about, guess what? Cats from Hell. And Jackson Galaxy comes to tame them, if you will, or get them in the right state of mind. And they've got all sorts of animal shows, pet shows, Too Cute. Not talking about you, TC. Go back to sleep. And they had Dogs 101, Cats 101. And then if you remember, and this goes back probably even beyond 15 years, I think actually it's closer to probably about the time frame we're talking about right now, the late 90s, early 2000s. They had Planet's Funniest Animals.
I remember that.
Yeah. I forget
didn't Vin DeBona also do that?
I don't know if Vin DeBona did that. It wouldn't surprise me at all because he does all that stuff. And Yeah, it was hosted by Matt Gallant first, but then the last, I want to say, season or two was somebody who was on Mad TV at the time, who's gone on to bigger and better things, named Keegan-Michael Key.
Yeah, I wonder what he's up.
Yeah, and so that might be the genesis of the Animal Planet we have now, sort of throwing darts against the wall. I mean, we've seen it with other networks. Gosh knows Game Show Network, GSN, has tried their hand at, let's try Burt Ludden's Love Buffet, which is half game show, half comedy, done by the people who gave you Nightstand and MXC. Well, MXC came later, but yeah, those folks. And let's try Cram, and let's try Inquisition, which is sort of the film noir game show. And some of it worked, some of it didn't. But still, you don't know if you're going to have a winner unless you throw those darts at the board.
True.
Not everything can be a winner.
Just remember, somebody thought sharks in a tornado.
And they did it 6 times. 6 times up till now. Maybe they got another one up their sleeve, but I think they said the 6th one was officially the last one.
Oh yeah, because after when they get to 6, it's like, yeah, this is when it starts becoming unrealistic.
But throwing darts at a board and seeing what sticks. That's what you do when you're in a network, I guess.
Well, Greg, it may be derivative of the other episodes or the other installments of Sharknado, but you know what? That hasn't stopped the Fast and Furious franchise.
Oh no! If you can now spin off with The Rock and Jason Statham, I mean, there's no stopping it.
Maybe that's what Animal Planet should do. Maybe they should do Judge Rock's Animal Court. Or Jason Statham's Animal Court.
Judge Rock's Animal Court would be great. You could have The Rock cutting a wrestling promo while he gives his decision.
Oh, boy.
I knew I shouldn't have said that. Oh, my gosh.
You just gave Greg ideas.
I know. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Listen, stupid ideas and running with them runs in my family. As you know.
No.
No, stuff my dad says is another future entry possibility.
Yeah.
Oh my, well, I do want to add one more thing, and this actually you might find this a little interesting. Do either of you know who directed Judge Wapner's Animal Court?
No.
It's a name you've heard.
Is he a famous name?
It's a name you've heard.
Name I've heard.
Sid and Marty Krofft? I don't know.
You got the first name right. Marty Facetta. The guy who produced Catchphrase. The guy who produced Catchphrase, he did Wheel of Fortune as well, Love Connection. Yeah, he directed Judge Wapner's Animal Planet.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's just interesting what you find when you actually do research for your podcast. And now that's all we have to talk about Judge Wapner's Animal Planet.
Judge Wapner's Animal Court on Animal Planet.
No, it's Judge Wapner's Animal Planet on Animal Court. We've gone into Bizarro land. Yeah. I'm sorry.
This gives new meaning to the term kangaroo court.
Oh, boo!
Yeah, whatever.
I'm out of here. Anyhow, despite my brain fart, that's it about Judge Wapner's Animal Court. Remember, as always, you can find us everywhere, but you can go right now to one single link. I'm so proud of this that I did this and I got it all working. We can now be found everywhere just by going to www.itwasathingontv.com. That'll take you to the podcast. That'll take you to the different links, the Facebook group, the Instagram, the Tumblr, the Twitter. We have a little FAQ on there. And also, if you have any suggestions, comments, feedback, job proposal offers, we have an email address. contact@itwasathingontv.com. And we'd love to hear your feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. Even though Greg gets a little sensitive to the bad feedback.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, Greg.
Well, I'm a very sensitive guy. What can I say?
We know you are. You're a big softie.
You know, when people say bad things about Manimal, I can't help it.
Oh, boy.
Oh, remind me, that's why I got to send to the email box tonight. I need to direct a complaint about Manimal right to you. I want Greg to know that Manimal is a piece of junk.
Well,
this is not Mike Klaus typing this. Even though I sent it from his email box.
It may be Mike Klaus typing this.
It probably is.
I plead the fifth. And that's it for this episode of It Was a Thing on TV. He's Chico, he's Greg, I'm Mike. And next week, well, actually, first, you're going to get a bonus episode because we're nice. And we like doing 2 episodes, especially when this episode runs about 25 minutes. Next week, we're going to wrap up the animal series. We're sort of going to... We're still going to have the thematic episodes, the blocks, but the thing is, if we do like an extra episode every week, that won't be thematic. So we do have next week 1 episode, at least for now. There might be a second, you never know.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say what it is, but it's still, again, animal-based. And this is going to be a Greg show. Greg likes this show.
Yes.
Greg actually recommended this show.
Have you two watched it yet?
I watched it at work. All I have to say is it is animal adjacent.
Well, that's good.
And I will say it also references a show that was covered previously on this podcast.
Ooh, okay, that's a connection I didn't make in the past, but yes, you're absolutely right about that. Well, until the next episode, Judge Wapner's Animal Court, it was definitely a thing on TV. Talk to you soon.
Wow! Judge Wapner's Animal Court.
Why did I know he was going to do that? Oh,
you knew. You were waiting for it.
Hold on. Wait, we do it better. Wow! Judge out. Hold on a second. Wow! Judge.
Hey, Mike, you're keeping all these for the outro, right?
Wow! Judge Wapner's Animal Planet. Are we saving it for the end? Does that really need an answer?
It's like, yeah, we are.
Needed to that. That was the most rhetorical of non-rhetorical questions. Is this staying in? Absolutely.
Yeah, this is staying in.